Hello and welcome to Coronacrisis. My name's David Haythornthwaite and I'm the chairman of AFC Fylde, and over the next few weeks and months I'm hopefully going to take you through what goes on behind the scenes of a non-league football team at times like this. We're going to discuss all the issues regarding behind the scenes, the players, off-field staff, all the things that contribute to the running of the club, and how we're dealing with the issues that have been thrown at us on a daily and weekly basis, so that it gives you a really good insight to the club and the running of clubs in general. So I look forward to you joining me on this journey.
David, it's been a few weeks since we last had an update. We are still going through the coronavirus situation where we're quite far from normality, although we seem to be getting some back. Just during the last few weeks that you've been away, can we have an update on all matters AFC Fylde and what's going on?
Yeah, well that's that's a big question, or one big question, but I think starting off just on the coronavirus situation. Yeah, we're 5 months in, I think now, since it was sort of diagnosed, shall we say. And we're still, I think, we're not out of the woods yet, but it certainly seems to be getting back to some sense of normality. There's absolutely no doubt about it. That I was on holiday in Spain, in Palma, Mallorca, and I went for my walk every day and walked around, Palma Nova and Magaluf, quite well-known resorts there, and 70% of the hotels are closed, and consequently 70% of all the bars and restaurants are shut down as well. So this is, still a pretty serious crisis from a business point of view, not only here but around the world. And certainly when I was there at the beginning of this week, they were talking about a potential new lockdown in Barcelona. They're talking about a lockdown, aren't they? Just down the road here in Blackburn. Both begin with B, but totally different places. So it's still something that the government's are worried about. But I think one of the things that it's shown is, although it is, shall we say, allowed now to go back, and maybe we'll talk about this a bit later, to bars and restaurants and shall we say do the things that we did. It's absolutely amazed me how many people are not comfortable to do that. Some people say, oh, we've got used to staying at home and enjoying ourselves, but I think there genuinely is a fear within a large part of the population still about not necessarily contacting coronavirus themselves and concern for them, but the fact that they may have older parents or parents that are more vulnerable or relatives that are vulnerable. So we're far from out of it, and certainly going on that plane to Mallorca a few weeks ago, it was, there were 60 people on there, and flying back last night, sitting on a plane with a mask on all the way, apart from when you can have a sip of your coffee, is a very, pretty bizarre situation. So we're definitely not out of it, and I think the same applies to the football, which I'll come to in a minute. From our point of view of the business side of Tangerine, my group, I have to say, Adam, we've been so far pretty lucky. Business has maintained quite robust through this period, which I talked about earlier, and of course that is really, really important, because without the business we don't have the football club. It's as simple as that. And again, I went through all those numbers with you in sort of past episodes on here. So the fact that the business has remained robust has certainly had a big influence on what our thinking is for the season going forward. Will certainly determine things such as player squads and the quality and type of player that we can sign. We're still not, as you know, don't know really when the start of the season is going to be, and that's the problem with that is that none of us want to sign and put players on contracts, if at all possible, until the last minute. I've been asked by a couple of people while I was away about when they think the start date is, as you've asked me when the first thing you saw me, well, when do I think it's going to start? I wrote to Michael Tattersall on this very subject yesterday morning to get clarification, because there's been very mixed messages from the FA about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago. They made a statement unprompted, I think, but obviously, so therefore they felt it necessary to make it, was that non-league would not start without crowds, and non-league would not start unless the whole of non-league started together. It was a very clear statement by them. And yet last week we get a statement to say that you can start training again, you can arrange friendlies, etc., 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 and we may be able to, start football soon. But there was a lot in the small print which was very, very vague about that, and that's why I've asked clarification, because on the one hand you've got the Prime Minister saying probably October the 1st with crowds, and yet there's been a suggestion, and I think it's maybe given supporters hope that we'll be starting before that. Now, critically, why we all need to know is because, one, we've got to put our squads together. Secondly, we've got to decide on when we're going to start pre-season. Yeah. Thirdly, to say yes, you can start to arrange friendlies. Well, for most of the clubs, a lot of the clubs I know, even at League One, League Two, that pre-season friendlies were really, really important on bringing income into the club. So Tranmere, for example, played Liverpool every year, and that brought a huge amount. You can imagine a pre-season friendly with Liverpool. Absolutely impossible without crowds to do that. So we played Blackpool, we played Preston, we played I think Oldham once, and maybe Wigan last year. And again, that brought a lot of income into our club at the beginning of the season, which helped us. We won't be able to do that. So to suggest you can have friendlies is great, but it's friendly behind closed doors, so it's okay for fitness, things like that. But from a point of view of really what was important to clubs like us, income, that's going to be non-existent. So there's a lot of things that need sorting out, and we need clarity on, and that's why I wrote to Michael Tattersall, who's the CEO of the league, to try and get that. I haven't had an answer back yet, and I suspect the reason is that he probably doesn't really know himself. So we're all sat there sort of speculating. I know that League One and League Two, or shall we say the EFL, are talking about coming back and behind closed doors, potentially all with much reduced crowds. They're talking about maybe a third of the stadium, but nobody, I don't think nobody knows. And we go back to the situation. The government I'm sure are trying to be cautious. On one hand, they want to be optimistic and say, come on, let's get back to normal. But at the same time, they've got to be really careful because of the danger of it, shall I say, still bubbling below the surface. And as I said earlier, we've got just down the road here in Blackburn a situation that could lead to a lockdown. So a very unusual situation.
One thing over your left shoulder that you couldn't wait any longer on is the pitch. It's very clear to see that there is work happening there. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, well, again, it's something that we've held off till the last minute, because to renovate the pitch, anybody who's done it before is it's not. You can't do it for £500 or £1,000. I mean, this is a serious investment to do your pitch every year. and as everybody knows, as those associated with Fylde, those who came here as an away fan, our pitch was pretty abysmal last year, and you know, we found some defects in the drainage, and I'm currently having those fixed. I've just been down and talked to contractors before I started this interview, and yeah, they're hopefully putting those things right, and the pitch will be fit to play. I suppose a game of football on it usually takes about 6 weeks, so come mid-September I think we'll be ready. But we had to, because of the uncertainty, we had to press the button, because if it does start earlier than October, I don't think it will, but if it does start earlier in October, we need to have a pitch, otherwise we'll be in a mess. So yeah, it's not looking like a football pitch at the moment, but I think they've put a lot of root zone down, as it's called, over the last couple of days, and I think by the weekend we'll start reseeding. We just need some sunshine then, don't we?
Does that put us in a bit of a tough position for friendlies then?
Yeah, well, there's absolutely no point playing a friendly on that pitch. Absolutely no point at all, because what you want to do is, obviously, the integrity of the pitch, as I've said many times, is the most important. You want to have a great playing surface. So if we were going to play a friendly, we'd play at Kellamar Park, because it's only, as I said, critically to get match fitness for the players. If there's no spectators, why sort of tear up your existing pitch? Why play on it at all? There's absolutely no reason to do it. So if we played you know, what they call a bounce ball, or whatever they want to call it, then it would certainly be at Kellamar Park.
And I suppose with any away friendlies in other clubs, we'd be looking at training grounds and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think it'll depend. It's up to each club, isn't it? I mean, some clubs might take a different view. They may not have as good a place as Kellamar Park. We're very lucky to have that. You know, it's a great pitch. We spent a little bit of money renovating that this summer as well. The ladies' team, as you know, that's going to be their headquarters for this coming season. So we wanted to make sure it was as right as possible for them. But it's also where Jim and his team train during the week. But it's a great pitch, and it'll be perfect for friendlies.
Just mentioned Jim there. How is Jim? How's he doing?
Yeah, Jim. You know, Jim's Jim. I spoke to him a couple of times. I didn't want to disturb him too much. You know, he's furloughed, so he's not working. But you know, you can't stay away from football, can you, when you're involved in it? He's been in for his. You know, what happened with Jim was that he went in. Maybe we haven't spoke about it since last time, but he went in for his check, and then they were going to put stents in, and they found out that really it was probably a little bit worse. So we're going to do this heart bypass. And Jim was telling me last night that he's now got to go in for another scan, just to check a few things before they actually operate, and then they're going to give him a date for his operation. But you know, mind-wise, spirit-wise, you know, I think he's in good nick, really. He was telling me he'd been out for his, you know, 6-mile walk, and he'd been away. I think spent a few days with his kids in North Wales on holiday. So, all in all, I think you know, Jim's in reasonable shape.
Positive. And since you've been away, we've seen, again, staying on all matters, AFC Fylde, but Mill Farm as a whole, we've seen Bradley's reopen. Have you had positive feedback? Yeah,
we've seen it reopen, and then we had to close it down because we had a lot of technical difficulties. I can understand why a lot of places aren't opening up. I really can, because again, I'm at risk of repeating maybe what I've already said, but Bradley's holds 300 people on a match day. We can open now with social distancing, and we're trying to follow the rules. I'm not sure everybody else is, from what I've seen, but the people who are trying to follow the rules with the social distancing, it only allows us to get 75, 80 people into Bradley's. And when you open up, with all the costs of opening up and all the people involved, the staff involved, because we have to do table service now, you can't do bar service, so you know, that's quite you know, staff heavy. We have to have someone to take people to the tables, so they can't just sit anywhere. So you have to do the tracing, so you have to get everybody's details. You know, it's I forgot. I went to the hairdressers this morning as soon as I got back, and you know, before I walk in, my hairdresser's asking me, "Right, I need to take what's your address, David, and your telephone number." And I'd forgotten we have to do all those things. So it's very, very difficult. The restaurant business, the bar business at the moment, I'm sure everyone's seen that on the TV, but I can tell you from first-hand experience it is. And we were open for a week, and then we got so many technical difficulties that we just, you know, we weren't comfortable with it. We weren't comfortable that everything was right, and we were able to provide the service that we needed to. So we decided to close. So we just closed down for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, and we're reopening again tonight. And it'll be great. It's the end of the Premier League season, isn't it? And there's some pretty exciting matches coming up. United, Leicester being one. Watford, Arsenal, and you know, whether Watford can stay up. And I think Villa go to West Ham. Sorry, don't we? And so that's another game as well. So hopefully as many people will get down to Bradley's as possible. But if the maximum we can get in is 90, and then that's a problem. So we'll have to see how we go along, and I'm sure a lot of other people will as well. But I believed that we have to be open to do our part to try and get that sense of normality, you know, back to the country. Everybody has to do the little bit, don't we? Even though it might be hurting us, it's probably hurting us in the pocket. We certainly aren't making any money, I can tell you that.
You took the words pretty much right out of my mouth there. I was just going to say, although it's not as we know it, the normality within the area, I mean, we've got some of it back.
Yeah. You know, you can see building work going all around. You know, they're opening a new Starbucks drive-through just down, you know, on the entrance to the ground, and a new Burger King, and those kind of things, you know, working. I mean, I think they benefited probably more than anyone else, haven't they? You know, drive-through takeaways, it kind of works for them. But where you've got a sort of static restaurant like we've got there, it's a totally different thing. So I've only been home. I only got home late last night. And you know, I've been in work all day in shall we say, my normal business, so not 100% certain what it's like out. Probably going to venture out tomorrow night maybe and have a pint in Lytham, my local, and see what it's like. But I think it's we're getting there, but there's a long way to go, and it does seem to me that a lot of people are sort of almost waiting for the vaccine to come along before they, shall we say, feel safe. I don't know. So yeah, so we are where we are, and look, it's could be a lot worse, couldn't it? Could be a lot worse.
Well, welcome back, and I'm sure people will be looking forward to hearing a bit more about what goes on over the coming weeks.
Yes, and yeah, look forward to talking about it.